There are way too many activists running rampant within the video game industry, and every single time we turn around, one of them is saying something else that is ridiculous and pushing people to not support their product. And now the Concord lead character designer is talking about how they believe whites must acknowledge their privileged positions and then actively work for equality. I have a few different things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. Now, I've already talked about this game in a few videos, but basically it was announced at a Sony State of Play, and this is a game that is basically an Overwatch clone, very similar gameplay, lots of similarly designed characters, but with a few added tweaks like pronouns for each character. That brought a lot of negative attention to this game that already was not sitting well with gamers who just thought it looked like another Overwatch clone, didn't really look that unique or anything like that, and now it's unfortunately, for the maybe couple of decent people behind this team, getting roasted yet again. Now, when it comes to video games and being a developer within this industry, even if you say something on your personal social media, it is going to reflect the company you work for and the project you work on. Therefore, when you say something that is completely idiotic or you're attacking gamers, it is also hurting the other people that work on that project, and that's just something a lot of individuals don't seem to understand now. But we're finding out the lead character designer for Firewalk Studios, the developer of the recently announced Concord game, is a completely woke activist that buys into the claim that white people are privileged. Following the state of play, the character designs were mocked across the internet, and they do truly look awful. I was not impressed with any of the characters, with any parts of the gameplay. Really, this just looked like a cringy Guardians of the Galaxy knockoff that happened to take a very similar 5v5 arena shooter format and ran with it. This is their debut game, by the way, so this could be a sink or swim moment for them, and judging by the reactions, I think it's going to be a sink, and many people across the internet have talked negatively about it, saying things like it's a new progressive and modern shooter for PC and PlayStation. Of course, like I always say, I would rather see games like this release where it's a new studio creating a new IP and putting as much woke nonsense into it as possible, so that we do not have something like a Silent Hill 2 remake happening where characters are redesigned for modern audiences, gameplay isn't changed around. I would rather them do something like this, but that doesn't mean that we can't criticize it and we can't mock it, and that is what's happening now. Just because they're creating something new doesn't mean it's going to necessarily be successful. Of course, maybe the fabled modern audience will show up and buy this and it'll sell like crazy, but we have seen time and time again that audience doesn't actually exist, and the closest audience to that are sensitive snowflakes on social media who have proven they don't actually buy games. They look at something and go, oh, well, it's not progressive enough because of character models, or, oh, I'm just not really into this type of gameplay, but I support the team behind it. They come up with every excuse in the book, and that's, of course, why devs with existing products shouldn't change them for these people. But even Mark Kern was saying Concord, the game by Firewalk, is so focused on inclusive teams that they forgot the white guys in their games. Yeah, there's not even one single white male character within this. Of course, inclusion by exclusion doesn't work. I've said this so many times. You can't claim to want inclusivity and diversity while excluding entire groups of people. But they don't care. This is the game they wanted to make, and congrats to them. It's gonna be a massive bomb. But now, of course, because the trailer's been out for a little while and people have actually been able to do some digging into the individuals that are working on this project, it's not looking good. As noted by Mark Hearn / Grums, not only does Firewalk make it clear they are pushing inclusion as a value at their company, but the lead character designer has made it clear he is a woke activist. Back in 2020, he responded to a post by the former Bungie lead programmer, Peter, who stated thinking that all white people are unconsciously racist is the same thing as thinking that all black people are unconsciously lazy. And then, of course, John replied, that's an oversimplification. The sentiment being expressed is that whites must acknowledge their privileged positions and then actively work for equality. It will be hard and confronting work, but if we don't, we're complicit, and complicity allows systemic racism to persist. Now, of course, John here is a white male, so what is he doing? He is trying to say that he is below other people of other races because he knows that in the gaming industry, white men don't often keep their positions anymore, so he's trying to make sure that he is, putting this track record on social media of accepting his what he calls privileged position within the world, which is complete and utter nonsense. Throwing yourself under the bus just proves you have no self-respect at all whatsoever, and it doesn't matter no matter how many times you apologize and say you could be better as a human being. The people that you are promoting to positions of power within the industry will continue to denigrate you no matter how many times you apologize for being a white guy. That's not going to matter. At the end of the day to them, they're still going to replace you with a woman or a person of color or somebody who may, let's be honest, not be as good as you at their job. Now, clearly he's not very good at his job, judging by the fact that he's a lead character designer and these are the monstrosities that we're getting, but that's not really the point. The best person for the job should get the job, and unfortunately, in the industry right now, we're seeing this massive push for DEI. We're seeing hard workers, people who have been industry veterans for decades, be sidestepped because there is somebody who simply, checks off boxes better than he might. Again, he's clearly not very good at his job, but we have to have, some kind of example, so we're going to use him as it. He had also said doing nothing and saying, well, I'm not racist, allows it to persist unchecked. We need to acknowledge the advantage we've had and use it to help others pursue equality and justice. That needs to become the new I'm not racist, using your privilege to erode that very privilege. I mean, what is his idea here? To magically solve all racism, to magically solve all injustice that happens in the world, saying he doesn't want it to happen? That's just not the way that life works. And it doesn't matter if you're white, if you're black, if you're a woman, whatever you are, there are still people from every single race, ethnicity, group that face racism, that face prejudice, and we're seeing it happen within the video game industry currently. White men are being pushed out of the way in order to make room for other individuals. I just recently covered in another video that will be linked down below the fact that Warner Brothers Games actually has a new initiative project to push more women and non-binary people into leadership roles. And what does that mean? That men are being pushed to the side. They even said that they wanted to help, break up the male domination that's going on within the industry. That right there is not the way a company should work. Again, if you are the best person for the job, you should be getting the job. It's as simple as that, but that's not what we are seeing within the industry right now in many industries. At this point, even look at Hollywood. They have checklists for behind the camera and on camera. You have to have 40% women of color in new, Disney projects. You have to have a certain percentage of, individuals who could be considered disabled. You have to have all of these different things, or else, your ESG score isn't going to continue to go up. And I personally just think that is complete and utter nonsense, like so many other people. But now, with this new Concord game, we all thought that it was going to be a woke pile of trash based on things that are already in the game, like the pronouns, like the character models they decided to go with. But we can even see behind the screen and with the development team, the types of people that were hired in order to create this project. And I think when it finally releases, it is going to be a complete and utter disaster. I don't think this is going to be successful. There are 100 games on the market that are already like this, that are better. If I wanted to play Overwatch, I'd go play Overwatch. You know what I mean? It's got we'll call it diverse cast of characters, all different sorts of people who look all different sorts of ways, and that's perfectly fine. But this game does not provide any innovation. Therefore, why is it even being made? Just so that Sony can go, oh, well, we've got the more diverse Overwatch on our hands, which really isn't a selling point for video games. Of course, it will be interesting to see over the next few days and weeks leading up to release who else on this team echoes these same sentiments. Other, designers, producers, developers who think that, white people have to acknowledge privileged positions and make way for other people who have been less, fairly treated in their lives, all of these different things. And of course, I'm sure sprinkled within, these people's accounts, there's the I hate gamer messages that will be very interesting to see if they do end up popping up. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.